Today on the Comicstorian channel, we're going to be continuing our coverage of Batman Fear State. All of Gotham is under control of the Magistrate, a police state attempting to take control of Gotham and kick out the vigilantes, and Scarecrow spreading his fear gas everywhere, plus he is currently inside of Batman's mind. When we last left off, Peacekeeper 01 had been infected by Scarecrow's fear gas, and this was causing him to chase after the Batman attempting to kill him. But he ended up meeting up with Peacekeeper X, who had a far more advanced suit, and decimated him while Batman was trying to get the Magistrate and both Peacekeepers under control. While this is happening, Scarecrow is currently in control of the city, and somebody has taken over Oracle, calling back all of the superheroes who are now working with Barbara Gordon to figure out who took over Oracle and who is trying to get into everyone's head. This is a massive crossover series that is spanning multiple comic books, from Nightwing to Harley Quinn to Catwoman to Detective Comics. And today we're going to be bringing you Detective Comics 1043 along with its Red Hood backup. Then we're going to be bringing you Batman issue 15, which is going to be continuing the storyline where Batman's trying to figure out what is going on with Peacekeepers and Saint. And then we're going to tell you a little bit about something that happened over at Arkham Asylum during the A-Day event in which all of the villains in Arkham were killed. That's going to be Arkham City issue number 1. If you're wondering where you are, well, this is the Comicstorian channel, where I take some of your favorite comic books and I break them down into digestible bites. We cut out a lot of the fluff, giving you the synopsis that you need to understand the storyline, and help you keep track of where these all fit in to the overarching plot lines, such as Fear State, where there's just so many comic books going on. The goal here is that you can go out and buy these issues yourself and get the rest of the context or the rest of the art, or just get the next issue because now you have a better understanding of where we are in the storyline. And all the alterations to the panels, text, and images, that's to prevent copyright problems. But now that I've caught you up, let's kick off with Detective 1043. With each passing day, the Magistrate's hold and presence grows within Gotham City. As the rules and regulations get tighter, Saint's private military begins to show signs that they can't maintain their control, that the city officials have grown concerned. Mayor Nakano holds a meeting, and Saint says that he is aware of their concerns, but they are a PR problem. Nakano tells him that he has concerns about what this means to turn over Gotham's policing and security to a private company, especially one that has displayed so many missteps. There is a legitimate point about the systems in place that needs to be a part of their final vision. Saint stands up in his office. Your office, Gotham City, has tried and failed. This is where the Magistrate will not. The city will not have a future if you don't act now. With everything going on in the city, Nakano is still not convinced to give up security of the city to the Magistrate. But as Saint is leaving, he realizes that the men in this office are not Magistrate. At that moment, a red-headed man walks in a security uniform, and he tells the mayor that his name is Nero 19, and he is the king. As Nero pulls out his gun, Nakano ducks behind his desk for cover, and Nero tells him, "There is no one that I report to, no one greater than I, and any man who calls himself greater must die." Nakano escapes through a chute behind his desk, jumping out of City Hall as the Magistrate begins to move in to save the mayor of the city. But the security that Nakano runs into is part of the group trying to capture him. Then a voice tells them, "Let him go." And Batman slams one of the men down, asking, "Who do you work for?" The man doesn't answer, so Batman begins to take out more of the security detail, one by one, asking, "What do you want with the mayor? What is this?" As Nakano is thrown into a car, it speeds off, with Nakano asking, "Who are you?" And a man points a gun at him, telling him, "Who we are isn't important. What is important is that you die today. You will be the 5th to die, but not the last." Nakano jumps out of his seat, reaching for the steering wheel, yelling, "I'm not going down without a fight!" And he manages to jerk the wheel enough to flip the car on its side, skidding down the road. Batman begins to rush over to try and help him out, but when he gets there, he finds Nakano has already escaped. The driver crawls out yelling, "I will kill Nakano! For the king!" And Batman punches him, telling him, "There is no king, only jesters." But down in the sewers, Nakano is swimming up into a tunnel, slowly pulling himself out. And as he gets up, he begins to look around for an exit, just wondering how much sewer can one city have. He then notices something red on the ground, and it's pulsating. He takes out his phone to shine a light on it and get a better look, and that's when he sees a growing mass on the ground with several pods attached to it, all with creatures growing in them. Creatures like the one inside Vile. And now maybe you'll start to understand why the city of Gotham was allowing Saint to take over. There was nothing but fear being put out into the city, which is what Scarecrow played on to create our fear state. But at the back of this particular issue, there is a Task Force Z short, which kind of sets up the Task Force Z storyline. Let's get into that Red Hood story. There's a loud thud as Deb Donovan is thrown onto the ground, and two men discuss what they're going to do with her next. One says that she was with Red Hood. They can't just... And then suddenly the man is thrown into a car as Batman swings down, taking down the second. I told you to stay out of this. Deb says that she was going to, but he dragged her back into it. You know each other, right? Batman looks up to see Red Hood fighting off more armed thugs, and Batman sighs. Yes, I know him, but we need to get you out of here. We can't be here when the police arrive. Deb asks what about Red Hood, and Batman looks over again at Jason Todd, his former sidekick. He could take care of himself. After getting Deb some distance from the scene, Batman returns just as the police show up, telling Red Hood to drop his weapons or they'll open fire. A batarang is then thrown, disarming the two officers, and Batman says that he'll deal with Red Hood. Come on, time to go. Red Hood tells him that he can go, but there's something that needs to be done first. More police pull up, and Batman yells, You can leave now or not, Red Hood. Red Hood tells him, This isn't your case, not your call. Frustrated, Batman fires his grappling hook, telling him, Damn it, I can't protect you from this. And he swings up into the shadows. Red Hood then picks up one of the thugs. I have ways of making people talk. And the thug tells him, Screw off, pulling a pin on a grenade. As the grenade goes off, knocking Red Hood out, the police surround the unconscious body. But the thug who pulled the pin runs up holding a badge. He flips out his FBI ID, telling them, We have jurisdiction. You can call it in, but the Red Hood, he's our assignment. Later, Red Hood sits in chains, demasked, and a voice tells him, Hello, aside from some minor cuts and contusions on the capture, you have no complaints? Red Hood simply replies, 5 stars, would recommend it to all my friends. I get the joke, but I feel like I should remind you that you no longer have any friends. You are a wanted man after all. In fact, there aren't many laws that you haven't broken, Red Hood. But enough of that. Let's get these chains off and begin your redemption arc. Wait, I'm not under arrest? Then what is this? A job interview. I'm putting together a team that is dying to meet you. And that concludes Detective Comics 1043, which explains how we lost Gotham and explains how Red Hood ended up with Task Force Z. I'm going to link our Task Force Z comic down below, but let's move into Batman number 115. When we last left off over here, Batman was just in an explosion that was supposed to stop Peacekeeper 01, and Miracle Molly showed up telling him that she knows what Scarecrow is doing, and she has a plan. Up in the sky, Saint is looking at the destruction of his bots, as well as the destruction that Peacekeeper X's suit caused, telling his staff that he wants them to recover Ricardo's body. He needs to see it for himself. Maybe there's still a way. Maybe his brain is still intact. Another assistant says that there is a call from the mayor's office, and Saint yells, Not now! I need to think. I need to breathe. But as he stumbles away, another researcher comes up stating that they have run a few seismic tests, and they have found something very concerning. There's some kind of plant growth in the cave systems underneath Gotham. A vine system growing up through the bedrock. If Ivy uses her abilities to their full extent, she could collapse Gotham. It could be even worse for Gotham than the fabled No Man's Land. Not only are they losing Gotham to their own peacekeepers, but Poison Ivy is also a threat. Saint screams, slamming the researcher against the wall, shouting, Gotham City is insane! It's filled with dangerous criminals and it all should be destroyed. The city should be wiped off the face of the earth. But then he stops for a moment and thinks, telling the researcher to give him the tablet. He looks it over and then calls out to everyone to call back their forces, converging on his mark. He has a new target for them. Meanwhile, down in the sewers, Sean Mahoney, Peacekeeper 01, is limping through the water, asking himself, What did I do? Oh God, what did I do? Scarecrow, still in his head, tells him, You did what you had to. For Gotham. Look, you're a bad guy and you're in my head. No, I'm a doctor. It's the city that's bad. It's sick and I have the cure. What's the cure? You are. You're the cure, Sean. Back up on the streets, Batman is following behind Miracle Molly as she asks, how is he so calm during all of this? Isn't he scared? Batman swings. Of course I'm scared, but I'm not just scared. I'm angry. Angry for all the people in Gotham. Angry for my family. I need to do what I need to make sure that no one else gets hurt. That makes sense. But there is a part of you that wishes that things could just tip in your favor, doesn't it? The two begin to walk into Gotham 2.0 as Batman says that it was never that simple. But why are they back at the Unsanity Collective's hidden base? They know that it's been compromised by the Magistrate. And Molly tells him that that is part of it. The Mind Machine, the device that Mr. Ways built to strip people away of their memories and all of their trauma. She helped him refine it after she went through the process. There are a few things that she knows of that others don't, namely that the machine doesn't just erase memories, it records them into itself. It helps the machine know what kind of memories need to be erased, so that it doesn't take away additional abilities such as walking, speaking, or even how to drive a car. While she was down and Eden thinking, Scarecrow's trying to push things right now. He's trying to traumatize the whole city. What would happen if he had gotten his hands on a machine loaded up with a few hundred people's trauma and weaponized it? Makes sense, but the Magistrate would have dismantled the machine when they took control of the place. Molly laughs, telling him that that's the other secret that she knows. Topside is just the interface to the real machine. It's the monitor. But the real deal, the machine that trapped everyone's memories and their traumas, it's tucked away right here. She then opens up a hidden elevator and the two begin to go into the lower parts of the Unsanity Collective. But as Batman steps out, Breaker rushes in, punching him in the face. Won't let you! But Molly shouts, asking what is he doing. Batman gets up, telling her that Scarecrow has his own mind control tech in play, trying to use it against Batman, her, and her friend. Her friend who can't hear her right now. How strong is he? Molly says that she's pretty sure that Breaker could punch Superman and he'd feel it. Those gauntlets that he's wearing are some of her best work. Breaker shouts out again, and this time Molly runs in, sliding between his legs, grabbing onto his arm, whipping herself onto it. He tries to shake her off, but Molly opens up the control panel on the gauntlets, and after a few moments of rearranging the circuits, the gauntlets all pop off. She jumps back, telling him, there, now he's a 400-pound wall of muscle. Batman follows up, knocking Breaker down, injecting a sedative to keep him down. And then he simply tells Molly, once we're finished here, we're going to deprogram Scarecrow's conditioning. Molly says that this might prove her theory right. The Scarecrow has the Mind Machine and moved it off-site when everyone was busy watching the Magistrate. But they might be able to track it. It really all depends on what's left for her to work with. To the Miracle Room, Batman! Meanwhile, deep beneath the city in Eden, Queen Ivy sits on her throne when suddenly she feels a disturbance. She looks up, shouting, no, not here! And Master Ways runs up asking what is wrong. She yells, I knew that this would happen! I knew society wouldn't leave me in peace! It's time to tear down this city and let nature reclaim it as its own! Over at the entrance of Eden, the Peacekeepers report that they are in. They have found Ivy's secret location. And Saint tells them, good, bring me Ivy's head! The main storyline of Fear State is heating up, and make sure you hit that like button and hit that notification button so that you know when the next issue's coming out. We're going to be putting it out next Sunday, hopefully, but, having notifications on will let you know. Now let's move into a side story. It's called Arkham City, The Order of the New World. With everything going on in Gotham City, they decided to do a tie-in comic book that tells you what's happening over at Arkham Asylum, and that's what we're going to cover next. It was a quiet night as a little girl sits in her bed, terrified of what is to come. Dr. Jocasta Joy brings her finger to her lips, motioning to the girl to be very quiet, and slowly begins to get closer. She kneels down, lifting the sheets from under the bed as Ratcatcher lunges out to try and stab her. Jocasta tells him that he doesn't want to hurt her, but Ratcatcher says, I need to eat the child. Jocasta says that rats cannibalize when under stress. They eat their young, and he is not a rat. He is the rat catcher. Ratcatcher presses the knife to Jocasta's face when suddenly he is tased. The police move in and she yells that was more than enough, and the officer tells her that he was about to kill her. As the police escort Ratcatcher out, Detective Stone lights his cigarette, telling her that they can't keep the girl's parents from talking to the press. And Jocasta says that he will find a way if they don't want the press knowing that she's helping them find escapees from Arkham Asylum. He sighs. I know that Blackgate is a temporary solution. We appreciate your help. Were you still hoping to get access back into Arkham Asylum? She says apparently she needs a police escort to retrieve her things from the office. But what the two didn't notice is that there is a reporter in the bushes taking photos. Later, in the now abandoned Arkham Asylum, Jocasta goes through her files. Stone picks up the file stating, were these all of your patients? She says just the ones still unaccounted for. Since A-Day, several of the inmates have escaped, including Professor Pig, Mad Hatter, and Double X. But everyone who has gotten out has been rather quiet. Most weren't wanting to break out and rob banks or start fights with Batman. Most want nothing more than to just live. There were also some that slipped through the cracks, the ones who have been at the asylum so long that they don't even think about them. As the two leave, Jocasta says that she is expecting to see more evidence of what actually happened here. And Stone says not much evidence can be found with what the Joker did, just death and nothing else. A true act of insanity. Jocasta asks, is that what he thinks? The Joker always knows what he's doing. He thinks things through. He never gets confused. She was never convinced that the Joker belonged here in the house that Arkham built. But before long, Stone gets a call from one of his officers, and he tells Jocasta that there is another scene he'd like her professional opinion on. So meanwhile, down in the sewers, an officer says that they have had reports that it began to smell like someone was cooking hot dogs down here, and when they came to check it out, it seemed like they were cooking people. Jocasta looks at one of the burning bodies, realizing that something must have spooked the Mad Hatter. He would never run out without his characters. Just then, one of Mad Hatter's men begins to scream, and Stone quickly runs over yelling to get the paramedics. This one's still alive! The medics run in, and Stone says that this is the exact kind of bloodbath that he was worried about. This guy was probably a normal guy a week ago, or even this morning. He was making bacon and eggs for his wife and kids, and then the Mad Hatter got a hold of him and tried to cook him. The burned man begins to state, "The hood, the fire, and all was howling." Stone sighs. Great. More spooky crap. But further in, the Mad Hatter sloshes through the water looking for his friends. "Hello? Mr. Sheep? Martell, is that you?" A light soon begins to glow over him, and Mad Hatter looks back. "You aren't him. You are... Oh. It is good to see you. There's no place for you here, no tunnels to Wonderland in Gotham tonight. So can we... go home?" Later, after the police scrub through the whole sewer system without a trace of the Hatter, Jocasta goes home for the night to try and get some rest when suddenly she feels something disturbing in her apartment. She follows the trail of blood into one of the rooms where the 10-eyed man sits on his hands with his legs bent up and over him. Jocasta says that she said before that she can't keep him safe if he keeps leaving. The 10-eyed man tilts his head, stating that he needed teeth. He was going to use his own, but then he realized that God had stolen his entire jaw. Jocasta says, then how is he speaking without a jaw? And after a few moments of thinking, the 10-eyed man says that God must have put it back on then. Which is a shame, as he had to take one from another. He holds up a bloody jaw and Jocasta says, "Oh, God." And the 10-eyed man says, "I needed it. There is a ritual that we must perform to protect us from the ghost of Arkham." Jocasta then thinks back to a man who was taken and beaten in the streets. His name was Jericho Herring, and he was badly burnt during his second tour in Iraq. His head was covered in bandages, and he would often quietly mutter to himself to keep at bay the PTSD attacks that were prone to overcome him. Jericho was beaten because people thought he came from Arkham. It was at that point that Jocasta decided that if she can't help the whole world, she'd help at least one, because helping at least one of her patients would be all worth it. And there you have it. More of the core storyline, more of the background storyline, and more of a side story. All of it right here at the Comicstorian channel. Now, like I said in the middle, please consider liking, subscribing, hitting that notification bell, and if you want early access to videos such as this one, go join our Patreon, patreon.com/Comicstorian. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll see you next time right here.